Okay, let's get started with the second lesson in the first module for sleeping for performance. In this lesson, we're going to talk about whether or not poor sleep actually affects performance negatively. I think you'll be interested to see that there are quite a few studies that have started to demonstrate that poor sleep can affect performance negatively. Here recently, there's been some good data coming out of UCLA on their Division I athletes, and I think it's pretty interesting. Some of the original data, at least that I was aware of, was from Stanford in their Division I athletes as well. So basically what we see is that disordered sleep, poor sleep, can create an environment where physical performance requires a higher physical demand. So by that I mean, if you have poor sleep, and let's just say you go for a timed run, or you're trying to perform some type of measured physical fitness, the level of exertion that you have to do to get the same output goes up. You get early fatigue when you have poor sleep. Now, poor sleep doesn't always just affect your physical. It can affect your mental health. It can affect your ability to focus, right? So if you are going into an overtime game and you're really focused on trying to perform well, and you haven't slept well the previous night, that can certainly have a significant impact on your ability to make decisions during that time. If you're someone who is prone to anxiety, you can have an increase in those anxious feelings when you are in a sleep deficit. And then reaction time. We all would agree that that's important, and we know that poor sleep has a direct impact on reaction time. What we don't know, and now are being shown in the research, is that not only does it affect how you perform physically, it also affects how you perform mentally, but it also affects how your body recovers from a training session. So for example, poor sleep has been shown to reduce muscle protein synthesis, right? So by synthesis, I mean making new proteins for the body. We know that sleep has an impact on muscle recovery and on muscle growth. So if you recall, I was getting at, it can disturb hormone levels. So if you get decreased muscle recovery, decreased growth hormone, you get decreased muscle repair, and you don't recover as well as you would have had you had that accurate, appropriate amount of sleep that you need. Does improved sleep, on the other hand, affect athletic performance? So the first question was, does poor sleep affect you negatively? But now this question is, does good sleep affect you positively? So here's a study that they looked at, and this is one of the original studies that I could find out of that Stanford group. And basically what they did was look at their college athletes. I believe this was in basketball. And they just said, how many average hours of sleep are you getting? You know, they didn't ask them to do anything to change at all. They just asked them to report a baseline and monitored them. And they got an average of about 6.6 hours of sleep. Then they did an intervention. So they said, hey, we're going to do some strategies to improve your sleep, just how long you sleep. And they showed a direct impact on performance. So they showed that the 3-point percentage went up by 9.2%, their free throw percentage went up by 10%, and that their timed sprint went up by 0.7 seconds. Now, when you look at it, you say, okay, well, those are kind of small numbers, but just imagine, games are won and lost by 1-2 points, and that would have a dramatic impact on outcomes of games if you could increase your free throw percentage by 10% or your 3-point percentage by 9%. So this wasn't a live game. It was just a skills kind of competition. But I think the point is illustrated. And then they repeated the study in tennis athletes. So they took a baseline, so meaning they just got some general data on how much they slept normally. They provided that same intervention, and you can see they dramatically improved sleep. And then where they saw an increase was in serving accuracy by 6%. And I think if a coach could come to you and say, hey, we could improve your serving accuracy by 6 to 7%, I think a high-level tennis athlete would be super excited about that. And then this is data that's coming out of that UCLA group, and this was presented at a conference that it was at in 2023. And this was more looking at sleep consistency. So not the hours that you slept, but how consistent you were in getting good night's rest. So that sleep consistency kind of metric that they looked at was at baseline, 55% of the nights they were getting good, consistent sleep. And when they did an intervention, kind of education on why sleep was important, how to better your sleep, they got that group up to 70% in terms of their sleep consistency. And this was soccer athletes. So they again looked at certain skills. So they said a timed 40-yard dash. They improved that 40-yard dash by 0.25 seconds on average. Reaction time improved by 10 milliseconds. 18-yard shooting accuracy improved by 13%. So you can see all of these things are improved with not only improving your time amount of sleep, but your consistency on a regular basis as well. So that shows us that improved consistency or nightly hours of sleep both can improve performance.